Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
One of the hardest parts of getting older is feeling like something's off in your body, but not knowing exactly what. It's not just aging, it's often your hormones too. When they fall out of balance, everything feels off. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be the story of your next chapter. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is an herbal formula made with science-backed ingredients designed to fine-tune your hormones by balancing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol. It helps with common issues such as hot flashes, poor sleep, low energy, bloating, and more. With over 40,000 reviews and a bottle sold every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. A survey found 86% of women lost weight, 77% saw an improved mood, and 100% felt like themselves again. Start your next chapter feeling balanced and in control. For a limited time, get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com with code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
This is episode 385 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam with Will Salmon from Telemetry Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from CarBuzz.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And there was a question from somebody in Discord who wanted me to talk a little bit more about what telemetry is. So let me just give a brief update on that. So Telemetry is a company that's been around since about 2020. It was founded by a friend and former colleague of mine named Craig Deitch. I worked with him at Ford back in 2012, 13. Later bought my Miata from Craig. And he's regretted it ever since. Started off as a PR firm. His first couple of projects were actually consumer research projects in partnership with Wayne State University, and then started doing PR, which is what Craig had been doing for a long time. And then he got into doing content production, brand journalism, sort of basically. So he's got a pool of freelance writers that produce stuff for Capital One and Car Gurus and True Car and a bunch of other outlets. And Nicole, you did some stuff for him in the past, I know.
I did. I did some stuff when I was still freelancing. I did some stuff for Craig. Yeah. That was awesome. I actually really enjoy working with them.
And so last fall, Craig and I started talking. I was looking to leave Guidehouse, and he wanted to get back to the research business and thought that would be a good way to expand telemetry. And so it took a couple of months to get everything aligned. But January 1st, we started Telemetry Insights, which is a new branch of the business, basically doing what I did at Guidehouse, which is we're going to be producing market research reports, syndicated reports, doing some forecasting, and doing research and advisory services, custom services for various clients, and focusing on transportation and mobility. So most of what I've been doing for the last decade. So that's the short answer to what is telemetry and what I'm doing now. Doing basically the same thing as before, but back to being a much smaller company, not having to deal with some of the downsides of being in an 18,000 person part of an 18,000 person consulting company that gets 60% of its revenue from government contracts.
Wow,
well,
that's a lot.
Yeah. The research Guidehouse Insights, the research arm was only like 60 people, this tiny little outpost. The vast majority of the business was all this consulting stuff that they did. And because the majority of it was government work, I'll let you imagine what some of the potential impacts of that were. And from there, Robbie, what were you driving? Oops, Robbie's frozen.
Did we lose Robbie?
I think so. Nicole, are you ready yet? Oh, wait, there he is.
There he goes. Is he
He's
there?
moving again.
He's moving again? I mean, I can be ready.
Robbie?
So it's funny, guys. What we see is him just looking at little clips of the video, like consternation, another look at consternation. His head's moved slightly more consternation.
Are,
Yeah, he's just staring at us blankly. This is terrible.
are you working yet, Robbie? You're muted. I know that.
No, I see no Robbie. Are you hearing him, Sam?
No, this little mic icon next to his name is crossed out, indicating he's muted.
Oh, well, he's having
Here, let's
technical
see.
difficulties then.
Let's try. Let me see if I can unmute him.
But it doesn't look like he's speaking either. That or he hasn't blinked in a really, really, really long time.
Blinking. Oh, it says their mic isn't connected.
Uh-oh. Do we need to...
Robbie, try unplugging your mic and plugging it back in. And while he's doing that, Nicole.
Are we going to try and keep recording or are we going to put this out?
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, dead silence. Okay.
Because I have a flight to catch later this afternoon.
Okay, so I have the Hyundai Ioniq6 this week, and I was still prepping that. So I apologize for not having all the details I should have right in front of me. Things went a little sideways this morning for Nicole Wakeland on the personal front. So anyway, Ioniq6, which is a plug-in. Sorry, which is an electric vehicle. Can you tell I wasn't ready?
Well, it is a plug-in vehicle, too.
I mean, it is a plug-in vehicle. It's an EV. It was sort of the follow-up. Ioniq 5 came first. Then we had the Ioniq 6. And it's sort of the sleek. It's a sedan, but it's a hatchback. But it's more sedan than, I mean, it has the hatchback thing going on, but I feel like it looks...
The fastback.
Fastback, yeah. So I like how it looks. It's funny. People either love this or hate this. I didn't realize that this is quite such a polarizing design for a vehicle because as I was driving it around, I had to pick some people up. We went out last night. They're like, what is that? Like it was such utter disdain. And I'm like, well, you, I mean, not just you don't think it's cool, you hate it. They didn't like it. So they did not like all the little pixels. They thought it was too plain inside. And can I tell you one thing that drove me nuts and drove another person I had driving with me nuts and drove Russ nuts? The controls for the windows are on the center console. They're not on the doors. And I think that's an effort to make the doors look nice and sleek and clean and refined and nothing on them. However, it's weird. It's not a Jeep. I feel like the only vehicle that like Jeep could do that. I think does Bronco do that too? Probably because the doors come off. Maybe do they?
Yes, and the Wrangler and Bronco both have
Wrangler and Bronco, but their doors come off. So I get it. Like I get that. But why are we doing that in Ioniq 6? The doors don't come off, to the best of my knowledge, Sam. The doors stay put. So I don't know why.
Well, my Miata also has the window switches in the center console.
Yeah, but the Miata,
the doors don't come off.
That's true. But it feels weird to me in this one. I kept reaching for the door to reach out to get my coffee, like from Starbucks. Like, wait, no, it's on the center console. Hold on, I'm coming. So, so that was a little bit odd. Driving it is nice. It did really well. And it was interesting. So it's been pretty cold in New Hampshire the last week. And I've been charging it up overnight to fully charge it. Every day when I turn it on, it immediately shows me that it's not really going to have 100% of range. It's showing me like it's never quite at, it's like 99, 97, 98, 96. It's showing me a different high 90s number every morning. And I'm wondering if that's because it's so cold. And as soon as I turn it on, it gets
probably.
It's going, hey, heads up. You aren't getting the full range out of this puppy today. That's
well, I think it probably has something to do, because they're probably, as soon as you unplug it, it's probably running a heater to keep the battery warm.
Yeah.
And so, that's probably impacting that state of charge estimate right away, before you even do anything else.
Right. Because I haven't even pulled out of the driveway. I've literally turned it on, sat down, got ready to go. And I was like, oh, I only have 96% range, which is fine. I'm not upset about it, but it's kind of interesting that it shows you that right off the bat. So otherwise, I mean, it was fine. The cold didn't impact my actual driving, even the tiniest little bit. It still drove just like it should always drive. So you have a rear wheel drive or all wheel drive on this, and there's a standard range. And I guess they don't say long range, I want to call it. So you're going to get a decent amount of range on this. It is anywhere from a low of 240 miles up to a high of an estimated 342 miles. So it all depends on what configuration you get, whether you're getting rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, what kind of tires you've got on it, like which trim you have. So there's a lot of variables in this depending on which you get. The rear-wheel drive standard range is the low one. That's 240. The highest that you get, the 316, is actually all-wheel drive with 18-inch wheels in the SE. So depends. You're going to get anywhere from 240 to 316, depending on your configuration and, of course, the weather. And this charges really quickly, which is also nice. If you're using a 350 kilowatt charger, it's going to charge from 10 to 80 in 18 minutes, which is really short. Like when you really think about it, and I still say the thing is that, you don't charge that much when you're not at home unless you're on a road trip. Most of us don't need to. So if you have a charger at home, you're all set with probably rarely needing to plug in. If you're on a road trip still, 18 minutes, that's not bad,
And by the time you find, where the restroom is, if you got kids with you, get them through the restroom and get some snacks and things like that, grab a cup of coffee. 18 minutes, flies by pretty quick.
Exactly. It's going to happen really quickly. So it's not like
I can tell you it's not enough time to eat a burrito, like half a burrito, because I've had, and that's why. And then there was no one else around, and there was other chargers open, so I just waited until it got up to like 95 because I'm still eating my burrito. I'm like, well, there's no one around. I'm not, impeding anyone else from charging. There's another charger that's free next to me, so I'm okay.
So you're fine. So pricing wise, the cheapest you can get away with this is $37,750. That's for that standard range rear wheel drive SE. The most expensive way that you can get this is the limited dual motor all wheel drive, which is $54,500, which is kind of getting up there. I don't know. I mean, I know it's all wheel drive. I know it's a really nice car. I know it has a decent amount of range, but I feel like that. It's funny. It feels like a lot to me. I think what's happened for me is that the making a car look like the future by making it so plain inside and sort of almost overly minimalist is starting to not appeal to me. So I want if I'm going to pay $54,500 for a car, I want it to look like I paid that, not like it could easily have been a $30,000 car. And it's not because it's.
So you want it to look more like a Mazda.
Yeah, more like a Mazda. No, I wanted to look, Mazda, I mean, it just doesn't, I don't know, that look is starting, it just doesn't look as nice as I want it to. I don't know, you've driven it, Sam.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. It is a little plain on the inside, kind of sleek and minimalist. But at that price point, I do expect a little bit more.
Yeah, that's just it. It's just like for what it is, I'm like, I want it to look a little bit better than that. I just want a little bit more than what I'm.
I want 4 extra buttons at least.
4 extra buttons.
I want 4 extra buttons. Is that too much to ask?
It's 4 extra buttons.
Apparently.
And you guys want to take a guess at destination on this one?
13.
Say
$14.95.
$11.95.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cheap.
So
even though it's coming from Korea.
$11.95. So, which isn't bad in the grand scheme, because as we're seeing, everything is in these like freight charges that are pushing $2,000 on things all the time, and it freaks me out. I'm like, just put it in the price of the car. That's not a small amount; it's a big amount.
Yeah, come on.
But in terms of comfort in driving this, it's a very comfortable car. It was very nice to drive. It's got that cool, quiet EV thing, going on. So it's always nice. It just all EVs have a certain amount of quiet because there's no, engine under the hood. But I like driving this. I think it was a nice car, but it just doesn't feel as fancy pants as I want it to be for the price that it's going for. So I feel if you're really into that super minimalist thing and you want an EV and you want one that charges pretty quickly, because the Hyundai Motor Group has that down to a science, then I think the Ioniq6 is a good choice. But I think there's a lot of EV competition now.
And how do you feel about the exterior design?
I'm kind of okay with it. It looks very different. The pixels, the little squares that Hyundai is using all over its EVs to indicate like its new design, I guess, and its new direction for its EVs. It looks cool, but it's also a little overdone, I think, in the outside of it. That very swoopy, curvy thing, like it's like you're saying, it's a fastback, so it's a little confusing. You're like, is this a sedan? Is this a hatchback? What are you trying to be? What I don't like, and this isn't just a Hyundai thing, I genuinely don't like the door handles that pop out on an EV that
I don't like
pop out left, right, like they pop out from not up and down.
One side.
That one side pops out, because if that door handle's wet, you lose your grip on that handle.
Yeah.
And even though this has little, like they used to be kind of smoother, now it has sort of like ridges, so like not grippy, but just like a little hole,
some texture.
Some texture sort of, so your fingers can grab it. But I'm telling you, it was snowing here, it was raining here, and the number of times I grabbed that handle, you go to grab it and it's that horrible like ouch, like it kind of snaps your finger, you lose your grip on it. I don't like those. I don't mind if they pop out, but I want them to let me actually grab my hand on it and pull up. Those sideways handles are terrible when they're wet. They make you lose your grip on the car, and I don't like them. That's it.
Yeah, I do not like those handles on my Ioniq 5 either.
Yeah, see, do you find
these are lame? I'm like, well, we don't. I mean, it's
you don't get rain.
Even when we get a lot of rain, but it's not as we can still open it, but we don't get like that super cold. It's under 30, like I don't know, 20 days a year maybe here, so it's not that big of a deal. And typically we don't go anywhere because my wife works nights and I work at home, so no one's getting up like really early in the morning and trying to like jump in the car. So but I can see the issues.
I'm not that it drove me nuts that and the controls for the windows, but otherwise, I like it. Do you like the Ioniq 6, Sam?
I do. I don't love the design, but I appreciate that Hyundai did something a little different with it. It's not just another lookalike sedan. So I'm glad there's something a little different out there. Overall, I don't have an issue with the interior. I think, for us, given that we jump in and out of different cars every week, it probably takes a little getting used to where those window switches are. Mm-hmm. I forgot that they were in the center console. It's been a while since I drove an Ioniq 6. But I think if you were driving this on a daily basis, you'd quickly get the muscle memory of like reaching
a
down
Fiat
the center.
or a Mini.
Oh, absolutely. You get used to it. I just don't want them there. I get used to it too. I'm like, I don't like them there. Put them on the floor as God intended, unless you're in a Wrangler or Bronco.
We've had a Fiat and a Mini. I didn't like them in there.
One thing you mentioned about the charging, from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. The other day I was watching a video from the Out of Spec YouTube channel, mm-hmm. and they had somebody that had just taken delivery of a new 2025 Ioniq 5. Which is built in Georgia, which now has the native J3400 charging port on there. So they took that and a new or a Tesla Model 3 to a supercharger station to see which one would charge faster. And they did the 10 to 80%. For the Hyundais, because of their 800 volt electrical architecture, and the superchargers still don't really support 800 volt. They don't have support for 800 volt charging. So technically the Model 3 has a higher peak charging rate. It peaks at 250 kilowatts. The new Ioniq 5s and presumably the Ioniq 6 and the 9 will have a faster charging speed than the Hyundais and Kias have had up until now, which was capped at about 84 kilowatts. They now will charge it up to about 120, 125 kilowatts, which is definitely better. And so they wanted to see which one would actually get from 10 to 80% faster. Even though the peak charging for the Hyundai is lower, even when it's at, whether it's at the lower charging speed or at 800 volts, it has a much flatter charging curve than just about any other car on the market, any other EV on the market. So it doesn't start to drop off the charging rate, when you get to like 20, 25% state of charge. And so they saw when they plugged the two of them in simultaneously, the Model 3 jumped up ahead quickly because it jumped up to 250 kilowatts, but then it started tapering off really fast. And so in the end, because the Hyundai has an almost flat charging curve, it actually beat the Tesla to 80% by about a minute.
Wow.
It's that efficiency, that 800 volt efficiency.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, like, on how that all works, and it's a little difficult to sort of explain to like regular people. Like, well, it also charges this, but also makes the vehicle more efficient like this, and then and at some point, someone's eyes, they glaze over, and I'm like, it's better. Just say it's better.
Yeah.
It's like better all around, which is why everyone's sort of moving to that, except for Sony with the Afeela.
Yeah. All right.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
One of the hardest parts of getting older is feeling like something's off in your body, but not knowing exactly what. It's not just aging, it's often your hormones too. When they fall out of balance, everything feels off. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be the story of your next chapter. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is an herbal formula made with science-backed ingredients designed to fine-tune your hormones by balancing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol. It helps with common issues such as hot flashes, poor sleep, low energy, bloating, and more. With over 40,000 reviews and a bottle sold every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. A survey found 86% of women lost weight, 77% saw an improved mood, and 100% felt like themselves again. Start your next chapter feeling balanced and in control. For a limited time, get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com with code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. Robbie, what have you been driving?
So last week I teased the BMW Z4 M40i Roadster. I had the cool green color, which it is called. I should probably hold on. I should have had that ready to tell you what the cool green color is called. Frozen Deep Green Metallic.
Oh, I like that color.
It's beautiful. It's $3,000, but I mean, if you're buying the Z4 M40i, just, I don't know. I feel like maybe just do it. like what, I don't even know what the default paint is, but every picture they show of this car, they show that color, and there's a reason, because it looks outstanding. So that's my review of the no. No, it's it's got the M40i versus say the more regular human Z4 S-Drive 30i. The 30i has the 4-cylinder. The M40i has the inline-6 turbocharged inline-6. So you're getting probably the best motor on the market. And you're getting a convertible, and it's a 2-seater, so you don't have to when people are like, hey, can I get a ride? And you have to explain to them there's no room in the backseat of your car like I do with my BRZ. I'm like, we could, but
there's no backseat.
There's no backseat. Yeah, and the 6-speed manual transmission, and it was just an absolute delight. I drove it around. Finally finally drove around the back roads of the Bay Area, and I had a great time. I put the top down, and it was unseasonably warm, at least that week. So that actually worked out to my advantage, even though we're all doomed as a species. No, it's it's super. 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, which is fine. 382 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. It like if you have a Miata and you're like, I want to upgrade, I want something bigger, I want something with more power. This is what you get. This is it. This is like the next level. Like your Miata, like a Pokemon, has evolved to the next level. That is the BMW Z4 M40i Roadster. This is its final form. It's not, but as you evolve your Pokemon, they're not cheap. It starts at $66,450, which seems pretty on what it should be, to be honest. It's a BMW. You're getting all the bits of the BMW. The one I drove, $77,470. So yeah, that's and a lot of it has to do with that $3,000 paint job, and then they have a driver's assistance package with $700. All right, fine. It's manual transmission though, so like a lot of driver's assistance stuff with manual transmissions is sort of
doesn't really work.
Yeah, exactly. But you bought the manual transmission for a reason, because you want to drive. It is you don't want to commute, you want to drive. But it has this thing called Edition black high gloss trim. That was $3,500. Okay. I feel like I could have done without high gloss trim. I don't think I need high gloss. So yeah, then the parking assistant, which again I was like, I guess it just tells you to put it in gear. I haven't used or tested a parking assistant in about 10 years because I don't have time. Like even Ford took it out of the car because no one's using these.
Yeah, because they're too slow.
They're too slow. I don't have time. Like you're now like, everyone, hold on, everyone who's driving on this road.
Does that even work with a manual transmission?
I think it tells you to put it in reverse, and then I have to lift exactly. I realized it had that right as I was finishing up the day, and I was like, oh, should I try this? No, just don't get it. How about that? Yeah. Don't get the premium package parking assistant. It's dumb. You got park. It's $1,200. Take that off. Gone.
If you can afford to spend $77,000 on a car, and you don't know how to parallel park, go take some driving lessons and learn how to parallel park.
Can I tell you, last night we watched someone trying to parallel park in front of, it was a huge spot. Like it was a spot you could have put a pickup truck, like an F-150 into. And we were sitting at the windows at the restaurant. It was right outside of us. I'm watching and it's like, I couldn't tell what it was because it was raining, but it's a compact sedan. It's like a Elantra or something. I'm like, what? He pulls in. He is so off that he backs into really slowly the Jeep Gladiator behind him, but then keeps going. The Gladiator is actually pushing backwards, like you can push a car with that. And he's just still going back. And I'm like, he's physically, how much do you have to accelerate to push a parked Gladiator? He pushes it back. And I'm like, did he just hit that? And we're watching him out the window, pulls out, backs into it again, the same spot, doesn't change his angle at all. I'm like, zips away into the night. Did not damage the Gladiator. Gladiator was like, whatever. But I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you?
So I, before I moved to San Francisco, I lived in a small town. Then I lived in Orange County in LA, down the LA area, Southern California. And you didn't have to parallel park anywhere, growing up, because it's a small town. Where am I going to parallel park? So when I moved to San Francisco, the first month, I'm like, oh man. And so then I learned how to parallel park. Then we moved back to LA. And I remember one night, we lived on the second floor. We had this giant window in the front of our apartment. And so I could see the street. And there was someone trying to parallel park in a space with enough space with 2 car lengths. And it was a good 25-minute show of everything wrong with people who don't know how to parallel park. And I felt so bad, but it was also so very entertaining. But with the Z4, you can put the top down, which means you can see everything. And also it has beeps and boop, 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 all that stuff and cameras and whatnot. And so yeah, especially now with all the beeping that cars do, that everyone should be able to parallel park at this point. If you can't, get two trash cans, put them in front of your house, and just try to parallel park.
Just practice.
Practice makes perfect. Yeah, that and it'll in the end, it'll keep you from being made fun of on the Wheel Bearings podcast.
Exactly.
So it's
that's really all that matters.
That's really all that matters. So yeah, it has an inline six turbocharged, so it's it's a small car, but it's also it's got a big engine for its size. So 19 city, 26 highway, 22 combined. I got 22, just right on the dot. Boop. Those Germans, those Germans know what they're doing. No, the transmission was great. Driving it, I had a hoot. I feel like there is every once in a while I'll meet someone who hates hates convertibles, and I don't know if they're what's happening. Maybe someone hurt them in a convertible. Maybe they just don't like the wind or sky. But no, you.
I mean, they got a bad sunburn on their scalp one time, and
yeah. So, yeah, it's it's rear wheel drive. I don't know why you would not want to want this, but I absolutely love it. But I also feel like anytime I get in any convertible, like if you'd give me, remember the Chevy Sprint convertible?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably be like, this is the best Chevy Sprint. Well, it was the best Chevy Sprint, but this is the best car ever. So the convertible roadster portion of it does sort of like give it a leg up. But to be honest, if this has just been just a regular, non-convertible Z4 or a Toyota Supra, that would have been fine.
Well, I was just about to ask you, this or Supra?
I feel like this. I drove when the Supra came out. I drove the Z4 and the Supra and ended up almost within the same month. And I genuinely liked the BMW more. But the Supra at the time that's when it still had the automatic transmission. So I don't think that was kind of fair, to be honest. Have I driven the manual? I don't think I've driven the manual Supra. I think it was like a refresh, and I was like, it didn't make any sense for me to drive it.
Yeah, I had one, and it was fine, but it still has the same complaints I have about the automatic Supra, which is the way the greenhouse is shaped. Visibility out of it is really bad.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it feels like it should be a convertible.
Yeah,
because it's based on a convertible. So you get in and you're like, this feels like it shouldn't have a top on it. This feels like they sort of it feels like that's a hard top. Like a hard to see out of hard top, that someone put on a car. So it's a and I don't mind the design of the Supra, but the Z4 looks much better. I don't know. I'm team Roadster on this. So that is the BMW Z4. What do you guys think the destination charge is?
$12.95.
I'm gonna go $9.95.
Exactly $9.95. Sam,
you're
saving money because it doesn't have all those extra chairs or a hood or like a metal hood or not a hood roof. So there you go, $9.95. All that money, right. And then you save a little bit extra on the end. Then they took that away, and then they gave me something even cooler. Well, I don't know, maybe cooler, probably the WRX TS. Now, like everyone else who big WRX fans, I owned a WRX. I love the WRX. The TS is sort of a weird sort of beast because it's supposed to be tuned by STI, and it has active dampers. So it has a comfort mode, which just feels wrong to have in a WRX. Like a comfort? No, I want to be jostled in every possible scenario in my life. I demand being jostled. And I had the car and I drove it around. Like the first day I drove it around, like, oh man, I like this car. But it starts in sport mode, so you have to actually go and put it in comfort mode. Every time you start it up, you got to go.
That's the right thing to do.
It starts in sports mode. You got to put it in comfort mode, and it is delightful. And I really like this car a lot more than I thought I would. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the one to get, especially as you're getting a little, my age in your 50s, and you're just like, maybe my kidneys can't take it as much as my 20-something and 30-something year old Robbie,
or your spine,
or my spine. Like, Yeah, it has, like I said, it has the active dampers, and so yeah, you can put it in comfort mode. And comfort mode's actually pretty nice. You're still getting jostled a little bit. It's not, you're not driving a BMW, you're not driving a Mercedes, but you do sort of feel the difference. But you can put it in sport mode and still get that fun WRX excitement. It's got that manual transmission with those that short gearing in first and second, which I've met a few automotive journalists like, I don't understand this car. I don't get it. I can't figure it out, because they're used to a really nice long throw, especially the American cars with the transmission, where you're like blah blah, and you're doing like 70 in second gear, and then all the other gears are just sort of there. You have to you need to be you got to work on that. You got to keep you got to be active with this transmission. But once you figure it out, it pays off. It's just, and it still has the that turbo lag that WRXs have, except they've really, over the last like 20 years, oh my gosh, just about 20 years, they've really minimized. It used to be it used to be like accelerate, go. That was the lag. And now it's like accelerate, go. So no, I really like the TS more than I thought. It has Brembo brakes in the front, a 6-piston in the front, 2 in the rear, and it is it's quick, it's fun. If you live in anywhere where there's any sort of, maybe you have some nice back roads but they're sort of tore up, this is the car to get. This is, in my neighborhood, we have some really nice back roads, but they're sort of tore up. And so this is the car to drive. If I go over to Marin, I can also drive this car, but that's where you drive the Porsches and the Aston Martin Vantages and all this stuff. If you drive them over here, I've had the Aston Martin Vantage get tossed like into the other lane by all the bumps in the road. But this is I really liked it. I did notice that as time has progressed, the seating position in the WRX has gotten a little bit higher than it used to be. A little bit, you're sitting a little bit higher. It's not a big deal, but it was something I just noticed kind of right off the bat. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was hitting up Tim Stevens of all, Mr. WRX himself. I'm like, hey, is this thing sitting higher? He's like, yeah. He's like, it's not that big of a deal. And, you pull the steering wheel out and it's fine. You pull it towards you. It's not. But I was just like, is this fit? What? Is it, what? Huh? Okay. But because it is it's got all the sort of fancy bits. It's a $10,000 premium over the regular WRX, which is called, the regular WRX is called the WRX Premium. So that starts at $35,750. The WRX TS starts at $45,705. So you're getting the better brakes, you're getting the active dampers, you're getting the tuning, the STI tuning. This is sort of you're an adult, but you're still, you're still that enthusiast. You're still that, you're still that market for the WRX, I think, is what the WRX TS is. It's like, you have a little extra money. You still wanted that WRX experience. But sometimes, you want your kidneys not to get jostled and your spine to stay intact. And you just your internal organ. You just want to keep your internal organs like ready to go, because the limited amount of time you have on this planet at this point, you don't want all your stuff all mixed up. You want to keep it all in the right spot.
Where it belongs.
Yeah, where it belongs. So again, I think. And I talked to Tim Stevens. He's like, yeah, I didn't think I would like it. I thought I was ready to turn my nose up at it. And I think he had the same experience. I think a lot of people have had the same experience where they were like, oh, they softened it up. I think everyone thought they were going to do a Golf R with it. And instead it's just like, it still has all that WRX, the flavor, the personality of a WRX, with a little something extra, versus taking something away in order to give that comfort. You're just getting something extra. And so, it's fantastic. And let me see what the Monroney they gave me is not a Monroney. It's just like a piece of paper. So I don't know what you guys can do. They don't even have the fuel economy, and I forgot to look at it, to be honest. It's 258 pound-feet of torque, 271 horsepower. Really, my biggest concern, my biggest beef with the WRX is it's only in a sedan. You can't get the wagon.
Yeah, they dropped the hatchback
like a couple of years ago. Yeah. It's haunted me ever since. My WRX was the sport wagon. It looked like a proper little wagon, and it was my favorite car, and I miss it every day. And I wish this was a wagon. Instead, it just looks like just a run of the mill sedan. For most people, are like, "What is this car?" It looks like a Camry or a Civic, and then the person behind the wheel is vaping, and then they just take off.
They're like, what's happening?
The WRX is rated at 22 miles per gallon combined with the manual and 21 with the automatic, which is unusual these days. Usually automatics get better fuel economy than manuals on modern cars, but it's slightly better.
I think it's because you're shifting so much that you're already at that higher gear.
Could be
saving some gas. There we go. That's my answer. Okay. That's my final answer. It's and it also has that iDrive stuff. So if you're not looking at the road, the car yells at you, which I'm actually a fan of.
I feel like sometimes I must not look at the road properly because sometimes I'm literally staring straight ahead. It's like, pay attention to the road different. And I'm like, I am. I'm looking straight at it.
I think what that is, some of these systems now are starting to include logic that, if your eyes are just straight ahead on the road and never glancing around at anything, then it assumes that you're kind of zoned out and wants to make sure that you're still paying attention.
I guess I'm just super attentive because it's not even one of those moments where you're like been driving for hours and you have that sort of highway hypnosis. I'm like really actively engaged in driving. Like, Nicole, pay attention. I am paying attention.
I love the term highway hypnosis. I loved it when they told it to us in high school. I don't know. It just feels like there's some sort of magician on the road who's doing a trick.
Like an overpass.
Yeah. Anyway, WRX TS, fantastic. I had the Sapphire Blue Pearl, which isn't the blue that, the WRX blue, but it's fine. I don't know. It's fine. Who cares?
All right. Well, I finally got my hands on the Blazer EV, the Chevy Blazer EV for an extended drive for a week, which is something I did the first drive in California back in December of 2023, right before they decided, oh no, this software is broken. We need to stop selling these things for a while. And so finally got my hands on one. And this time around, when we drove it the first time around, they only had the RS models, which is the upper trim level. This time I got an LT. So it's an LT with all-wheel drive. And so they're on the Blazer. Currently, they have two propulsion options. You can get the rear-wheel drive, which has the big motor on the rear axle with 340 horsepower. Or if you get the all-wheel drive, it's set up more like a traditional transverse engine all-wheel drive system where it's primarily front-wheel drive, and then there's a smaller motor on the rear axle that gives you some extra juice. If you need to spread your torque delivery around a little bit for in low traction conditions. And so the all-wheel drive is only rated at 288 horsepower. It does have slightly more torque, 333 versus 325 for the rear-wheel drive version, but 288 for the all-wheel drive, which actually, when I first drove it, they let us drive the rear-wheel drive one first on some curving mountain roads, and it was actually a lot of fun. And then I got into the all-wheel drive one, which had less power, and it didn't feel quite as much fun, but that was also an RS, which was heavier, had the bigger wheels and tires. This one that I drove, the LT, had merely 19-inch wheels.
Yay! Smaller wheels, everyone.
Which is just still, too big, but it's better. And it seems that, since they originally launched it, they've also taken some weight out of the Blazer. So because when they first launched it, it was running closer to about 5,800 pounds, and they're now listing the curb weight for the all-wheel drive model at 5,337. which is still very heavy, but not as bad as it was at the time. So the LT is the base trim level for the Blazer, which is not to say that it is a stripped down model. It's still very nicely equipped, and the interior I think is quite decent. My main complaint with the interior on the Blazers was with the seats. Again, when we first drove it, on the twisting mountain roads, the seats that they put in it, I think are the same seats that they're using for the police package version of the Blazer, which means that they're wider and flatter. They don't have very aggressive side bolsters.
So you slide
so you
back
can slide around a little bit.
It's like a little. It's like a. It's like a fair ride.
Yeah.
Will you live? Nobody knows.
So not real aggressive side bolstering, but for just normal daily driving, it's actually okay. It's very easy to get in and out of the thing. The Blazer very roomy. It's a big vehicle. It's a 2-row, 5-passenger. It's like 121 inch, almost 122 inch wheelbase, 192 inches long. So this thing is large. The back seat, very, very roomy. It's also kind of wide, 78 inches. So it's on the wide side. So you do, if you're on narrower back roads, you do have to pay closer attention. But like most of the other current generation Chevy vehicles, it's got the same interior setup with the 17.7 inch landscape mode center touchscreen that's kind of tilted slightly towards the driver, and then the 11-inch instrument cluster display. So there's lots of screen real estate there. GM is doing the right thing and keeping with a lot of physical controls for the climate control. So you got knobs to adjust the temperature up and down, some rocker switches or like kind of piano key switches, a row of those in between to toggle the things like the defoggers on and off. Got the circular vents that they've had on the gas Blazers, and they're also using on the Equinox and some other models. And they were also on the Camaro, which looked pretty cool. Looked kind of like jet engines. Very easy to adjust. You just grab the little nubbin in the middle there, and you can move it up and down in whatever direction you want. Give it a twist to close it or open it. So those work way better than anything that you have to use a touchscreen for. This does, like the other GM EVs, have the Android Automotive infotainment system, which means no smartphone projection. And I was chatting on Blue Sky the other day with Robbie DeGraff from Auto Pacific, and he was mentioning, I can't remember which one he was. I think he was driving the Equinox, or one of the Chevy EVs, and he was saying that after spending time with it, he actually didn't mind the not having to deal with the phone in there. My major complaint with it is that there are some additional apps that I'd like to see in the Play Store for Android Automotive, and this applies across all the vehicles that use the Android Automotive system, not just GMs, but Volvo, Polestar, Ford, Honda, Nissan. There's a few. I'd like to see some messaging apps in there, that can, so you can use that to send messages. And also there's some other streaming apps that I'd like to see, like Hoopla, which I use with my local public library to get audiobooks. They have the Libby app, but not all the books are in Libby, and my local library supports both Libby and Hoopla. And I'd like to have the Hoopla app in there as well. It's not real hard to add these into the Android Automotive Play Store, so I don't know why developers aren't doing it, but they should probably add those in there. Let's see what else. When I had the Blazer, it was kind of cold around here. Temperatures were into the teens, low 20s, so I did take advantage of plugging the car in and using the preconditioning, so it'd be nice and toasty warm when it was time to leave for an appointment. Just unplug it. It's already 72 degrees in the cabin. Doesn't have to use any energy from the battery to do that. Still, with the cold weather, the overall efficiency was not fantastic. It was about on my efficiency loop, it averaged about 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Not great. It does have a good sized battery. It's a 102 kilowatt hour battery. It's rated at 279 miles for the all wheel drive. The rear wheel drive is rated at 324 miles. I would prefer to, see better efficiency out of this thing, even in cold weather, especially given that the GM EVs do have a heat pump, so I would expect a little more from it in cold weather, but still, even with the efficiency it's got, it still should be good for about 235, 240 miles of driving in cold weather. Other than that, not a lot of other complaints about it. It felt pretty good to drive. And mine had the optional comfort and convenience package, which gets you the eight-way power driver's seat, 6-way power front passenger seat, heated driver and front passenger seats, the EvoTech seating, which is their faux leather, wireless phone charger, heated and wrapped steering wheel, the auto dimming mirror, auto sense power liftgate, a couple other things. And it also had the Super Cruise package. So the comfort convenience package is $2,500. Super Cruise package is $3,255. Super Cruise works great, but again, I'm not sure I actually see the value in it. I don't know that it's worth $3,000. And I'm not sure that I remain unconvinced that any of these hands-free systems are an actual benefit to drivers. But if you want it, it's there. So total price came to $54,745, which again, quite a bit cheaper than it was when we first drove it in early last year. They dropped the prices on the Blazers by about $6,000. So this would have been a $60,000 vehicle originally. Now it's just shy of 55,000, and it is eligible, at least for now, for the $7,500 federal tax credit. Tomorrow there's a new administration being sworn in Washington D.C., and we'll see what happens on Tuesday. But if you rush to your Chevy dealer right now, you can still get one with $7,500 tax credit on there, which gets you down to about
banging on the door. Let me in.
Go.
I need a Blazer.
Well, he doesn't get inaugurated until noon, so you got tomorrow morning. So you can go down first thing in the morning, get everything signed, and get your $7,500 off.
Yeah. Run, don't walk.
Yeah. So you want to take a guess at the destination charge?
Ooh, $1,800.
$1,695.
Nicole is closer. Woo-hoo! Surprisingly, it's only $1,395.
Oh wow!
Oh, good for them. The fact that they pulled like 400 pounds out of the vehicle, I think is good. I felt like when I drove it, it felt like, especially when you drive back to back with the Lyriq just drives so much nicer, and this felt like a brick.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how this is the same, it's the same how? And I think there was a conscious decision to make it feel solid and like that made it feel like a brick with a motor. It's a brick with an electric motor.
Yeah. If you forego the Super Cruise package, you knock another $3,000 off of there. That helps. Personally, I would, if I was buying, I would still opt for the Equinox. I like the size, slightly smaller size of the Equinox better, and definitely the lower price. But if you feel like you want that extra room, the Blazers got you covered.
Yeah, or you can just get the Prologue like everyone else's.
Yeah, I actually prefer this to the Prologue.
Oh, interesting. I haven't driven the Prologue yet. I probably should. I need to get around to it.
I think it's definitely a better value than the Prologue. The pricing on the Prologue is quite a bit higher, because the Prologue starts at $50,000.
Yeah.
And if you want the Prologue, I don't think you can even get Super Cruise on the Prologue.
I don't think, but you get Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, that's true. But
people love their CarPlay.
Yeah.
And people, I've said this before, like Toyota and Honda, the people who they buy Toyotas and Hondas for a very specific reason, because they're bulletproof. And whether or not, Honda worked with GM or not, people are like, oh, it's a Honda. This is going to last 7 bazillion years. It's got Honda engineering. And, the next, the 0 Series will have like all Honda engineering. But I think that Honda name, I think the Japanese automakers are sort of like, oh, people will just buy our car, even if it's really just a Blazer with a Honda hat.
Yeah.
With a little hat.
All right. Well, speaking of Honda and the 0 Series, Honda had their annual, end of year, 2025 preview call earlier this week. And they released the first official image of the first vehicle off of this platform that for Honda will be called 0 Series. Acura is not using the 0 Series branding. It's Honda. It's
not the platform, isn't it? This past week, it's the platform doesn't have a name. It's just the 0 Series. So because I asked them, like, is 0 Series the name of the platform or the architecture? Like, no, it's just what we call the cars. I'm like, okay, so what's the name of the, like, we don't have a name. I'm like, so like Ultium, like now, because Ultium doesn't have a platform name because they pulled them. So it's, so it's the 0 Series technology.
So anyway,
it's very confusing.
The same hardware that's going into the 0 Series is actually going to debut on an Acura model, which starts production late this year in Marysville, Ohio. I'm actually going down to the plant, not this week, but next week to take a tour of that.
Cool.
And when last summer at Monterey Car Week, Acura showed a concept called the Performance Coupe,
EV?
Performance EV Coupe, something like that.
Yeah, it was just very weird.
Yeah,
fast car.
And it gave us a preview of the design direction for this new car, and so they got a teaser image of a prototype wrapped in vinyl camo, and it's got a name, and it's RSX.
Dun, dun, dun. Remember the RSX, everyone?
Yeah,
cool little coupe from.
It was the last of what was the original Integras. Yeah, the fourth generation of Integra. They decided to rebrand it as RSX, and now it's going on to a larger SUV coupe, when really this is the car that should have been called the ZDX. They should not have called the GM built SUV the ZDX. This should be the ZDX, because this is what the original ZDX was in 2010.
Yeah, it's the Mustang of it's Acura's Mustang. Mach-E Mustang, yes, where it's like, hey, remember we had this like cool little sports car? Now it's an SUV or a crossover or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's a tall hatchback.
Yeah. So we don't have any real technical details on it yet. We just know that the general shape, it's keeps some of the design cues from that concept, like the side vents and everything, but it's, not nearly as aggressive looking as that concept was.
Yeah. It's they show you the rear 3/4 panel, so you don't get to see the front, so you don't know if that has that very aggressive front, which probably not.
Yeah, it's probably a little tamer than that was.
Yeah.
It does have door handles though.
Yeah, did you see that?
Which the concept did not.
That's a good thing. Yay for door handles.
So it looks like it has the exact same door handles as the 0 Series SUV, where you touch the middle and then they pop out. No, you touch the middle and the door just opens. That's what it is. You touch the middle, then a few seconds later the door opens.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if they'll do that on the production model.
I don't think they're going to do that in the production model. I think it's too expensive, especially for But yeah, when I went to Honda this past week, I'll have a video up this week, and we can put it in show notes next week. Of walk around of both these 0 Series vehicles. But they're cool. It'll be interesting to see how this does the RSX.
And then another upcoming electrified vehicle in 2027 is from Scout, the Scout Terra, and what's the SUV called? The Adventure?
What is the SUV called? It's like Dirt and I guess Adventure. What you now?
Yeah,
everyone just
something like that. Anyway,
hold on, I'll look it up. You keep going.
Yeah,
I'm looking.
So there was an article this week on the Drive.
The Terra truck and the Traveler SUV.
That's it. The Traveler.
Traveler. That's a weird way. So we have to think of the Traveler every time we think of this car. So as Scout, think of someone playing harmonica.
Yeah. so anyway, they're both going to be offered with an EREV powertrain in addition to an all battery electric version. And Scout hasn't really told us any details about, what kind of engine they're going to use for the range extender or anything. So there's, of course, in the absence of actual information, that has to be filled with speculation.
Of course.
So the Drive had a piece this week speculating that Scout will use the 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo from Volkswagen, which is actually in the Jetta that's in my driveway right now. And in that car, it's like 148 horsepower. And I don't think I don't think they can use that engine as the range extender for this thing, because these are big vehicles. These are full size.
These are big. Yeah, these are not small in any way.
Yeah, I think if they do that, it's going to be a huge mistake, because apparently something like 85% of the reservations for this thing are for the range extended version.
Really?
And if they put an engine that small in there,
to be honest,
it's going to be, it's not going to have enough power. It's not going to be enough. They need more.
With the range extended i3 issue, we can only do like 45 miles an hour because the engine can't. The little motorcycle engine that was in the i3 couldn't produce enough power to make it go really much faster. Although Roman over at TFL told me you could hack it. You could hack the system so you could go faster.
Oh,
yeah.
But I don't know how long that would last. But
yeah, that's probably not a great idea, because
are we recommending that?
Supposedly the range extender on the Scouts is going to be mounted in the rear, behind the rear axle, much like it in the i3 it was in the back of the car as well.
Mm-hmm.
And cooling, if you start tuning that thing up, cranking that up, that's probably going to be a problem.
You're gonna have to put some radiators, which where the hell are you gonna put those? Oh man, that's a lot. Yeah.
So
I understand why people want the range extender, because truck, vroom vroom, and like concern about range, blah blah blah. But I do love these Scouts.
They look fabulous. I love how they look.
Yeah, I think that they need to use a larger engine. They probably need to use at least the 2-liter turbo. Although what would have been an interesting solution for the Scout range extender is the VR6. But that just recently went out of production.
Yeah, if they're not, like, what are we going to do with the VR6? I don't know. Just get rid of it. Okay. And then they have a thing that came along. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, I think the 1.5 would be too small. The 2-liter, you can get that. I mean, there's versions of that, like in the Golf R, that, do over 300 horsepower. And I think if you have somewhere between 250 and 275, for a vehicle this size, that'll probably be more than adequate to keep the battery charged for whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, I think a 2-liter probably. Well,
yeah.
We'll find out, huh? And
eventually.
18 or something.
Someday.
Yeah. I think I do. Yeah.
Someday,
really
maybe.
You know what? It's got buttons. I don't care what they put in it, to be honest.
That's true. It does have buttons.
You can get the and again, people want the Ram, the E-Rev, I guess, is now the new, instead of serial hybrid is not series.
Yeah.
Series hybrid. I like serial hybrid because it sounds like we're eating cereal. Series hybrid is harder to say. And then you have to explain what series is. But yeah, I don't know. It's the Rivian. They need to get their other vehicles out before these start hitting the market.
They do.
Yeah.
Race.
What do they do? When is Rivian supposed to come out?
The R2 is supposed to launch like late this year, early next year, I think.
That's still a ways away.
And then the R3 doesn't come until like 26 or 27, late 26, 27.
But there's nothing else on right now. There's nothing else coming that's like that. So I think if they can, and they're getting all that Volkswagen money anyway, which is funny because it's Volkswagen versus Volkswagen. It's like Spy versus Spy at this point.
Spy versus Spy.
All right. Well, speaking of Ram, they apparently have decided to drop plans for the big battery version of the Ram REV, which I think is actually the right thing to do, because they were going to launch the Ram REV, the battery electric version of the Ram, with a standard range with 168 kilowatt hours, which is bigger than the extended range version of the Lightning, and that was supposed to have 350 miles of range, and then a bigger long range version with like 220-ish kilowatt hours with 500 miles of range. And given that you're also doing the Ram Charger, the long range version just didn't really make any sense. So,
no, I think it's a good call too. It didn't. Yeah. I think there's a little bit like, oh no, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't make sense given their lineup.
It's been too expensive, too heavy.
Yep.
Yeah. All the twos.
All too long to charge. So so they're going to go with the Ram Charger, which, I mean, really the Ram Charger covers what you would want to do with the long range version of the REV anyway.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be more useful for towing. And then get the standard range version for everybody else that, doesn't need the long range towing capabilities.
Yeah. It's just such a giant heavy battery. It's to move these giant trucks for the range that people think they need. You just keep adding more battery, which adds more weight. You're looking at add more battery, you add more weight. You're
looking at upwards of 3,000 pounds of battery.
Yeah,
which is just
it's sort of,
which is too much. It's ridiculous.
It'll be really interesting, like what happens with trucks, EV trucks, if Honda cracks because I think of all the automakers, Honda's probably the one that's working. It seems like something they would be able to crack. And again, it's every year it's 5 years away for the last 15 years. Solid state batteries.
Another 5 years. I got now, Robbie. 5 years. That's it.
Every 5 years. It's 5 years away right now. And what was it? 2025. By the end of the decade is what they told us.
Yeah.
To Toyota, but I feel like Honda's.
But which decade?
Well, they said this one.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But Honda loves an engineering problem more than anyone on the planet. That's their whole jam. Like, oh, it's a problem. It's like giving a class full of like mathletes, like some like a bunch of those little puzzles you can get offline, like 15 puzzles in a box. Like giving them that's the Honda engineers. They're like, oh yeah.
You like highway hypnosis? I always thought mathletes was the funniest word. I don't know why.
It is. Athletes. They're like athletes, but with their brain.
With the math, with their brains. I just like it. I'm not picking on them. I think mathletes are great. I just think the word is funny.
Yeah.
Instead of like a hockey stick or a football or a soccer ball, they have calculators, but they like graphing calculators and like slide rules.
No one has graphing calculators anymore.
Oh, I think high school students are still required to buy those Texas Instruments TI-83s.
But like only in high school. Does anybody else use them?
Oh, hell no.
I mean, why are we making high school students spend $100 on a...
Because they'll use their phone to just solve the problem.
Right?
So you got to use give me your phone. Here's the crazy.
Nobody uses those, once they graduate.
They're using slide rules.
I actually do have a slide rule upstairs.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to actually, it was my dad's. And I've been meaning to learn how to use it. I've just never gotten around to it.
Well, it's 3-day weekend. That's what you're doing tomorrow.
All right. So, we mentioned Scout, but, apparently VW thinks it doesn't have enough brands in North America. So it's planning to bring its Cupra brand to the U.S. in partnership with Roger Penske. With Penske Automotive. Penske owns a whole bunch of a network of dealerships across the country. I have
questions about this story, which says it's coming to the U.S. with a heavy dose of Spanish style. What does a Spanish car look like?
So VW bought a Spanish automaker called Seat back in, I'll say like the late 1990s, early 2000s, because Seat was going bankrupt, and so VW bought them for cheap. And then a couple of years ago, Seat had a model called the Cupra, and then they decided to spin off Cupra as a whole separate sub brand for reasons, because you can't have enough brands.
It's like no, it's not even the Acura. What is it? It's like the it's more of a performance. It's like
kind of a GR for Toyota.
It's the Polestar.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually the better analogy.
There we go. It's like Polestar
like Polestar to Volvo.
Yeah.
So anyway, they want to bring the Cupra brand to North America in partnership with Penske. The last time Penske Automotive Group partnered up with an automaker to launch a new brand in North America and a network of its dealerships.
Yes.
2008. Smart.
Oh man,
Mercedes-Benz.
Oh man, is this like a harbinger of doom? Like
I hope not. I think this is I think the Cupras are much better cars than the Smarts ever were.
I'm gonna check my finances, make sure I'm not overextended on anything for this global economy collapses.
So I guess sometime in the next couple of years, we'll see Cupra models going on sale in North America, in Penske owned dealerships.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I drove a Cupra. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean they're generally are well regarded.
They're fun little cars.
Yeah, I mean they're on the same platforms as VWs and Audis and other stuff. And they've got some electric models. I don't know which ones they're actually going to sell here, but could be interesting. A little more stylish than a VW.
Yeah, a little more aggressive.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked previously about last year, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration published new federal motor vehicle safety standards for automatic emergency braking for AEB. Which require the systems. We've got AEB systems on pretty much all new vehicles now that are largely ineffective because they mostly just rely on one forward-facing camera. They don't really work at night. They don't work at speeds over 25 miles an hour. They don't really work in any kind of bad weather. And so NHTSA said, that starting from 2027 onwards, from 27 to 29, they've got a phase-in period when all new cars have to have these new AEB systems that function at speeds up to 90 miles an hour, can prevent a collision speeds up to 60 miles an hour, or collision with a vehicle at 60, collision with a pedestrian up to 45, and also have to work at night. So the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which is the trade group that covers pretty much all the automakers except for Tesla, is suing NHTSA, saying that they've gone too far with this one.
Gone too far.
That is a lot to ask, given where it is right now. It's not like a little iteration for it.
Automaker is. I feel like no automaker should be allowed to talk about autonomous driving or level 3 and be part of this lawsuit. You're not allowed to talk about level 3 at all if you're part of this lawsuit. Period.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't do an automated driving system, then you absolutely you shouldn't. If you can't do this, I got that backwards. If you can't meet these AEB requirements, you certainly shouldn't be doing an automated driving system.
Yeah, right. Because
you can't be. You can't. You don't get to. You don't get to say that. You don't get to say we can do a level 3 autonomy on a car, and then say, well, we can't do this though. I'm like,
yeah, this is nonsense.
Yeah.
And they absolutely can meet these rules. The technology is there to do it. And I think it would be good to do this, especially the pedestrian parts of this, because the biggest growth, in fact, pretty much all of the growth we've had in traffic fatalities in the last decade has been from pedestrians and cyclists, because people can't see out of their big giant trucks and SUVs anymore. And so, they're hitting pedestrians all over the place, and it's not good. And so, adding things like imaging radar and infrared cameras that help the vehicle to detect the presence of pedestrians and cyclists and other vehicles, I think would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Agree.
If you're going to make a giant truck with just a giant billboard on the front of it, maybe you should, I don't know, think about the rest of the world.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Subaru, last year when they launched the Solterra, they co-developed the Solterra with Toyota, and it had Toyota's new infotainment system in there. Well, for 2026, there's a new Subaru Outback coming apparently, and there's spy photos, and it looks like it's got the Toyota infotainment system in there.
Dun dun dun.
I guess it's better. Toyota's is better than Subaru's, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it should
Is
be.
it though? I feel like the Subaru one is just like basic, and I like that.
I like the Toyota's.
You just push the thing, and the thing is there. It's just a grid. No one's trying to be. They're like, "Hey, we're Subaru. We're not trying to be fancy."
I like the Toyota one responds well when you go, "Hey, Toyota." Like hears you. It hears you well. Like others,
you doing a chitty chat. Yeah.
Yeah. When you talk to it, it hears you really well. So I don't know if it would work. Will it do that? Will it be like, "Hey, Subaru"? You have to say.
I would assume so.
Hey, Subi.
Hey, Subi. That's what it should be. Hey, Subi.
Hey, Subi.
Hey, Subi. Take me to ice cream.
How you doing?
Hey, Subi.
Subi. So what was their article? What did they talk about with the Subaru? Oh, they just kept saying "Hey, Subi" for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It got real weird.
The other thing, in the spy photos here, looks like the Outback is evolving. Ever since it originated back in the 90s, the Outback was basically just a slightly lifted version of the old legacy wagon. And that's long since been discontinued in North America. And it looks like this is becoming more of a crossover than before, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, they've been biggened it, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it does look a good bit bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's hard to tell from this one shot, but
yeah.
Let's get the
certainly taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a I don't think the Ascent is long for this world if this is what's happening.
Oh, really?
The Ascent is a 3-row.
Is it though?
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Technically, you are technically correct, which is the best side of it. Correct.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
Yeah.
Well, no, but what's going to happen is they'll launch this and they'll launch a redesigned Ascent, which is going to be
even bigger. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah, it'll get bigger. Everything will grow.
Oh, I'm sad about the large Outback.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Go get an Outback now if you want the current trick. It's
the run. Go get the Outback now. Go get your EV right now. Go get everything right now.
Everything this weekend. Well, this isn't coming out for a little while, so you get some time. It's gas. Nothing's gonna happen to this.
All right. So last week we talked about Faraday, and back in I want to say 2018 or 19, a whole bunch of people left Faraday and started another EV maker, which was originally called E-Velocity, and then they rebranded to Canoo. And somehow, like Faraday, Canoo's still been puttering along for the last 5 or 6 years, seemingly trying to figure out, how to get enough money to launch production. And this week, a couple of days ago, Canoo finally filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which means they're not even trying to reorganize. They're just liquidating whatever assets they have left.
They're just like, bye. were out.
Yep.
But they actually made vehicles that other people drove, which is something I don't think fair. I mean, Faraday says what they said a dozen cars are out there, but
15 or 16.
It's 15 or 16, Roberto. So don't.
Slightly over a dozen vehicles, and now the Canoo, like, then they have the NASA cars, and then people.
Yeah.
So, anyway, if you need to buy some parts for Canoo,
I feel like the EV, the startup EV thing is not as easy as everybody thought it would be.
Nope. I mean, the Canoo was they were doing some interesting stuff from a technical standpoint. Like the whole thing was a full drive-by-wire system.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this. What I thought was a pretty interesting, van-like body on this vehicle that was surprisingly roomy inside. And like I said, they had a whole bunch of people that left Faraday to join this company, and it just didn't work out. And so now they're selling off whatever they got left.
I think I think the hope was that they would continue to sell as like a fleets to the government, and then
they had a deal. Supposedly had a deal with Walmart.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Walmart was supposed to buy a bunch of these things for deliveries.
So if they could have stayed solvent, they theoretically had buyers, but they just couldn't do it.
Do it. You got to make the cars for people to buy the cars.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to pay you money if you're not going to give them pizza.
You're not going to, exactly. Or tacos.
Yeah.
Or tacos. Or pizza tacos.
All right. So while we're at the decaying husk of the Detroit Auto Show last week.
Oh, God.
Again, I'm going to say that if you're just a regular person, you're not one of us, auto shows are awesome.
Correct.
Yeah, but for us,
if you are a car shopper, it's a great place to go and cross shop.
It is.
Yeah, they're outstanding. Yeah. But for us, it doesn't, and even for the automakers themselves, they're like, it doesn't make sense for us to show news here because now we're competing with everyone else showing news.
Right.
But while we were there, for the announcement of the NACTOY winners last week, Nicole and I did get a chance to sit down with 3 executives from Stellantis.
Yes.
And so got interviews with the 3 of them, which I'm going to drop in here. We spoke with Bob Roterdorf, the head of Jeep North America, Chris Fuel, the CEO of the Chrysler brand, and Amir Ahmed, the head of Fiat North America. And so I'm going to put those in here. We've got 3 interviews that Nicole and I recorded with Stellantis executives at the Detroit Auto Show Media Day. The first one is with Amir Ahmed, who is the head of Fiat North America.
You're leading Fiat North America now, right? Yeah. So right now you got one model in your lineup, the 500e. How do you feel about how that product has been accepted in the marketplace so far as the year end?
I feel really positive about it. I feel positive for a variety of reasons. And when we took the job, and it was even before Ron started, the first question I got is, what is success? They said, that's the funny thing about this is we're not going to quantify success right off the bat because we're talking about a brand that had no media spending for 5 years. What do you say? So we have to slowly rebuild the brand with the right brand equity to reestablish what it is. And what it isn't, in some cases, was this brand that was going to come here and do crazy commercials and spend a ton of media money and try to be something very specific to the U.S. market. But what we're doing now is saying, brand is actually Stellantis' #1 selling brand global. And many people don't recognize that. We sold 1.35 million cars last year, more of the Jeep, more of the Ram, more than the Citroen, more than the Peugeot. Our recipe is to let Fiat see it. And that is, we're very good at building small, affordable vehicles. So let that recipe start to take hold. So for me, what I'm really excited about is when I look at how much I'm spending on media, the leads we're generating, and sure, they're not converting at the numbers that some of the other brands number at. That's also because we're only electric truck. And we all know this has gone on in the past 16 months-ish with EVs. But when I look at that and I look at what our dealers are now doing, kind of tested the dealers a little bit by turning off the media at the end of the year. And I saw our leads actually climb. So the dealers that really stepped up and put their foot forward. So the dealers are becoming really engaged. So now what we're really focused on is, okay, now how do we sell it as beyond just an EV? because ever seems to become a negative word. So many people that want EVs like it. I'm really pleased at what we call our inflows to see where people are coming from to buy our car. A lot of Tesla customers, a lot of bigger buyer cars. They're either adding to their garage or replacing a larger vehicle. So at the moment, I'm pleased. I'm never going to be satisfied. I don't care if we sell 190,000 cars a month. I'm not going to be satisfied because more is always going to be more. But I'm really happy with the fact that the recipe that we started laying out for what the brand wants to be has been well received and understood by the base. They know that we're an Italian brand. They know that we're an import, not a domestic vehicle, for instance. And we know what we stand for, and that it brings, and kind of reflecting on the Italianness that's already in America, and that's the expressions of joy and individuality and freedom.
So there was an important word in what you said there, John, about the Fiat brand. We have one affordables. The 500e is a lot of fun. It's very cute, very stylish. Affordability was not one of the strong points when it launched.
So when we launched, I will be the first one to tell you our lease was not competitive. And our company's been through quite a bit in the past 18 months, in the past year in particular. And we were trying to get this vehicle to market as quickly as we could so we could take some footing on it. And our commercial offer was not in the right place. And a lot of that was just based on what had just transpired. And when I say this, I mean, we built our first cars in November, our first passenger cars in November of 2023. We shipped them. Lo and behold, the Baltimore bridge collapses, the Key Bridge collapses, going into Baltimore Harbor. Couldn't even get our cars to the port they needed to go. And in these 4 months, the EV market absolutely tanked. Our nearest competitors dropped their lease prices $200 up a month, while our cars were on a boat. To give you an idea of what happened. So when that happened, the residual markets are noticed, and the lenders went, oh, okay. And our lease payment went immediately on competitors. And it took us time to correct that. But you look at where we're at now with a $199 a month lease on average, we're in a place where we know where the squeeze of pricing is, and I don't go and ask for more. I don't want to ask more. I don't want to sell the car on the MSRP. I'm selling it on a lease payment now, because 90% of EV buyers will lease the car anyways. So the lease price to me is really what matters. The MSRP is there. Now, with that said, MSRP-wise, if you look at it, this car is actually cheaper than the old 500e that we took out of production in 2019. So it's pretty remarkable to think that at $32,500, as Model Year 24 today, we'll announce Model Year 25 pricing soon. It's actually more affordable in that standpoint as a whole number. And then overall in the segment in the industry, when you look at the micro and small car, it's still one of the cheapest EVs in terms of MSRP, even though it does not qualify for the IRA.
I feel like you have the small car thing, which is great, but a lot of people don't want really small, some here, one bigger. So you have sort of like two challenges, because it's a tiny little car, which you either really want or really don't, and it's an EV, which people are going back and forth on. How do you convince people to give it a try?
That's the most important thing, and honestly, that's why we're here at an event like the Detroit Auto Shows. We've seen studies, right? 60% of Americans want to test drive an EV. They've never done it, they want to. So we've got EV test tracks in addition to the CAMG, where you'd actually try EVs, not just mine, but the Charger LB, which is the Daytona, incredible car, the Wagoneer S, another fantastic car. So we need to get as many Americans into the driver's seat of EV as possible. We hit the Miami Auto Show October, maybe a little bit earlier. Yeah. And what we do with our test drives at auto shows, we used to call the MPS, and Net Promoter Score. And what we measure is their sentiment towards the vehicle before they test drive it, and their sentiment after they test drive it. There was a 118% lift on Live Gritty, the highest we've ever seen. Okay. Right? You get in it and you go, first thing you say is, oh, this isn't as small as I thought it was, because it's not. The new car is 2 inches longer, 2 inches wider, and the cabin is about 15 to 20% bigger in terms of shoulder space and knee space. That's because when we make an EV as an EV and design a car ground up to an EV, react to axles way better. You've got better seats that aren't sitting like on a bar stool like the old car if you drove the old car. So it's just a better place to be. So it starts with that. It starts with getting people into the car. Then we have to communicate what's going to matter to you. Are you buying the car because it's an iconic fashion symbol? We know we've got really two audiences that we sell the cars to. We got people that are buying the car because of its affordability as parking. We're selling the car to a lot of people because they want to add it to their garage because the husband or the wife or whomever thinks this is a cool car to add or it's status. And that's why we actually collaborated with Giorgio Armani, because that's what people that buy Armani do as well. So there's a few different prongs that we have to go down, but that's how we're starting to just reestablish the brand, and it all starts with 500.
So how big do you see the potential market getting for the light RE?
It's a good question. It's something that we continuously evaluate. We've got meetings next week and the week after with our chairman to talk about it too. And we just have to keep a really close eye on this ever-changing market, because a lot of it's going to be tied to affordability. When affordability in transit days can be tied to what we want to do in terms of incentives at a national and state level as well. We have to keep a close eye on a lot of things. We still think that we have a product that's very unique. I firmly believe, and I'm a car person through and through. I don't know if you had those. I launched the Hellcat cars before I left the SRT brand.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, so I joke sometimes that the 530 offsets my own carbon footprint in my garage. Drive a 500s. Eat. It's on winter tires right now on the roof, right? I love driving this thing. I used to own a 2013 Abarth manual. Love that car. If you're a car person, there's no replacement, not just for displacement, but for size. Because there's nothing more fun than just a little thing you can buzz in and around of town. So with this car specifically, we have to monitor not just the EV market, because the EV market's going to dictate a little bit of what small car is. Because the smaller we can make a battery, the more affordable we can make a battery, will always be a more affordable EV than anybody else. And we're doing a lot of product actions to bring the price down even further, relating to battery technology and things of that nature, just like everybody is. And when we'll get there soon. We've got a big milestone coming up on pricing in a few years on that car as well.
As you're trying to get people to understand what Fiat is, you have your 2-minute 2-second, you only have one floor, elevator pitch. What is it that you want to hear? What do you want people to know and think of about Fiat that they don't right now?
It's funny. It's not that I don't need them to know it. I always say Fiat is a brand that when you see one and you drive one, you're going to smile. And it's the joy. It's the joy that comes with it. Because cars are commodities in many cases now, especially when many people consider EVs, they think they're commodities. And what you can't deliver through any type of marketing or any type of feature is pure joy that you get with something that has packaged like that you look at, and it gives you a feeling. Right? There's menacing feelings that you can have when you see a Charger, and then what you see when you see a 500. It's just pure joy. I was on a call just now with an agency, and they asked me a very similar question. So I turned the camera on and I said this, and there was 3 kids taking a selfie with the classic 500 Picori, right? And I said, it's poster card for every 5. And this is what it comes down to. So we just have to keep to our core of continuously supply the most attainable and affordable joy you can buy and get a car.
So, yeah, a big part of why you're able to get those much more reasonable lease payments is because they can make advantage of the tax credits set on the lease, even though it's obviously not built here. If that goes away, and it seems like that may be sort of one of the first parts of the tax credit that might be going away, is that lease loophole. What happens to the Fiat brand in that case? Yeah, is now those are as standard. I mean, selling cars is a very complicated matter. The residual market's a very complicated matter. Depending on which bank and lender you talk to, they look at that credit in different ways. Some banks will tell you that's what's hurting your residual value, is that every car will be leased and will give you $7,500 tax credit. And if that goes away, then almost immediately your residual goes up by $7,500 because everyone's not getting net deals. So it's all about the customer-facing transaction price and what happens there. Now, I think the bigger question is what's that going to do to the psyche of the American rider, and that is really what we have to study. So, again, that's why affordability matters. That's why having, no argument that affordability is critical, especially for EVs. If you can start to grow the brand, grow 500e sales, and you hit some thresholds, is there an opportunity to expand the Fiat brand in North America to add additional inputs?
I can tell you, and this is off the script here, there's not a single one of us sitting here that is looking to reduce or shrink our mass. Every one of us, we have a lot of obligation. If you shrink your brand now, you're out of job. We have an obligation to our shareholders and to our brands to continue to grow and to increase share. So with that, we're always studying new opportunities. Like I said, as a brand that sells nearly 1.5 million cars a year,
we have a very, very loaded toolbox. And there's lots of cars in that toolbox that I constantly study. I've been on calls all morning with Italy, studying those things, again, for reviews that we have coming up. So we're going to find the right products to balance our portfolio and do the right thing for the Fiat brand. Not to overstep what 500 does, because to me, 500 will always be the most central part of our brand. And maybe even other things will be even slotted below that. Because the most amazing thing to me about our brand is that the cheaper our cars are, the cheapest car we will ever make will be our Halo. There's not another brand in the world that I see that can say the cheapest car they make is their collection. And every time we make a more affordable car, it becomes a flagship. And that's where it gets interesting for us. And that doesn't mean we can't then add practicality and size in the top side, right? So we're going to keep studying. Presumably that means you won't be getting the Panda here. Yeah, because that would probably be cheaper than that, but not necessarily flagship. Well, listen, we announced the Grande Panda July 11th in Turin to celebrate the 125th birthday of Fiat. I'm not going to rule anything out. We're studying every single thing because, as I said, that's our obligation. Now, there are cars, if you ask me what I think about Panda versus some of the other things in the portfolio, I think we have many better solutions than the Grande Panda, but I need the data to prove that to me. And we started to do some research on the coasts, and we're seeing a really good response to the cars, and even more of a higher rate of response and a greater response to some of the other cars that we show them that you haven't seen yet.
I'm good. You answered my question.
Well, any final thoughts on Fiat and where it's going in North America?
Yeah, again, I mean, month over month since September, we've grown sales, right?
Our $4 leases in Colorado, sir. Come on.
That's not me doing that, right? That's not me doing that. So economics are economics. If a dealer wants to do that because they've got state level incentives to get them there, great. But it's not just Colorado. Our New York state dealers and share is improving. California and SoCal is turning on again. I have markets I need to reactivate, and I say this all the time. It's no surprise to anybody. I've got to find better ways to sell 500s in Texas and in Austin, for instance. I've got one of the most successful Fiat dealers in the U.S. of all time in Austin, Texas, that we need to find ways to support Texas as a state as a whole. So we know the car will do well there. We've got to help that state with a psyche with EVs, and we're working on that. So there's places that we want to activate, but we know this is a car that's going to sell in 50 states in every city. We're very, very focused on 10 to 12 distinct DMAs, Southern Florida, for instance, and we're seeing our efficacy in all those regions improve month over month. And because of that, we've already had its best year in 5 years. Right, all right. So it's just the beginning. More to come this year, too. All right, they come here.
Thanks, Jess.
All right, next up, we've got Bob Broderdorf, the head of Jeep North America.
All right, so let's talk about where Jeep is today and where it's going. So you've been in the role about 6-9 months now. Three, like. Just seems like 5 years. Three. It's all years. Yes. Stellantis has the ability to make it feel like no hours. So obviously, the brand has had its challenges. It's really loud. That's a little inner joke, just for us right here. Go ahead. Yeah. The brand has had its challenges in the last couple of years. And sales, have been a bit of a struggle. So, how with the changes that have happened with some of the repricing, shifting around trim levels, things like that, how's that working so far?
Well, so look, I'm happy with the response, but a lot of those cars, they're just arriving now. So other than Grand Cherokee 25s that have hit, that Grand Cherokee had a phenomenal mark. Actually, and I'm going to talk more from a retail perspective. All of us can pad our stats with fleet. Anybody can sell a car for nothing enterprise. I'm more interested in retail, dealer relationships, selling cars to customers. We saw a very nice growth. Actually, given the number of selling days since we launched WL, December was actually the second best month we've ever had based on number of selling days. So that was a nice clip in the right direction. Overall retail sales were actually up 6% quarter versus quarter. So I was happy with the retail, which is what these programs are designed to do. Compass is starting to get some of them, and then the rest of them hadn't shown up yet. So we'll see. We'll see what we're made of here very shortly. I think the dealer reaction has been excellent. And again, this is what I told you guys before. This is my bad. So the repricing and something in the simplest terms, I think they very much, again, I grew up in that world for 10 years, so I know many of them. They understand the level of aggression and the way that we want to compete. I firmly believe that if I take our product and I position right on my competition, the Jeep brand will win out given its history and its legacy. That's what we need to do. And in almost every single tactic, that's the general theme across the bars. Where is the sweet spot? Who has been gaining? Let's pick a fight right where it matters.
I'm curious about the whole electrification things. I know the Wrangler 4xe was such a huge seller, right? Everybody's like, are you still going?
They should say Wagoneer or say Wrangler 4xe.
And I feel, are you guys still going as hard towards electrification as you were 6 years ago?
Well, here, I guess it wasn't here 6 months ago, but I would say, I think we probably, we had some really good 4xe months, so I don't want to say we're not. It's still the number one selling, so I guess maybe we're still maintaining that leadership position. As far as being the end-all, be-all, I would like to be very flexible to the market. All of us know, based on everything that's about to change, could change, where it goes, what happens. I think the only thing that I can tell you is certain. None of us know the answer. So, since we don't know, let's be very flexible, and if I need to migrate one or to the other based on how much compliance I have to achieve, then we'll do that. So certain markets, especially getting all the global markets, have picked up the technology much faster than others. The U.S. market has had some reluctancies in certain parts of the country for sure. So as long as I'm flexible and I don't put all my eggs in one basket, I think I'll be fine.
So on the BEV side, and the process of launching Wagoneer S, you got Recon coming sometime later this year. First of all, how has the response been from the dealer community to those vehicles? Has there been pushback on those? Or are they excited about those?
Hey, honestly, I think the dealers go through the exact same experience that a customer. If you've never driven one, you've never experienced it, they don't have a lot of experience. And many of our dealers don't. They just don't. Until we put them in the car and they understand this is how the behavior changes, kind of how I categorize it. Think about how much you're tasked with a customer to deal with, even a dealer, because they have to sell this. When you just go to a hybrid, you're not really actually asking the customer to change very much. They still go to the pump. When you start going to plug in, well, now I can actually plug it in, but I have a choice. Then we get all the way to a BEV. Oh my God, I can't go to a gas station. I can go, right? So dealers have to think of selling them this way and get their customers this way. So they honestly, they have apprehension when they start and they experience it. They're like, okay, this is actually a very cool car. The immediate torque is cool. I think I can sell this. So it depends. If you're in California, those dealers they're jacked. But a guy can call a guy in Nebraska, it doesn't go quite as well. So it takes time to get them migrated. We did do some pretty interesting stuff when we brought in our biggest dealers up to Detroit, and let's just go drive Wagoneer S's in chart. Let's go drive. And we filmed their reaction. They all got out. We're like, I mean, that was actually pretty cool. You can see they were reluctant when they started, but once you experience it and they start selling some of these, and they get the momentum, it starts to change. Now, the battleground is how many does the world say I have to sell based on compliance regulations versus how fast the dealer can actually do it or the customers are willing to buy. This is the gap, right? I have to sell them faster than customers seem to want them in certain markets. This is the world of pain comes over. This is about the crazy pricing and all the articles you're going to ask me about the government and everybody else. $0 release deals on 500. Yeah, this is the chaos of how fast you have to change what rule, when, in what state.
So, Wagoneer S and Recon are both on Stella Large, which is a multi-energy platform. We already know what some of your other sister brands is planning to do with Charger. But are those two vehicles, are there any plans to offer alternate powertrain choices besides the BEV for those two particular vehicles?
She's looking, she's eyeballing right now.
Look at her, she's like,
Well, what? Right. Given the way the bodies and everything are configured on those vehicles, is it possible if the demand was there to do that?
Yeah, still largely possible with a whole bunch of. That's the beauty of the architecture, right? There's flexibility, and we can pull that off given the flexibility of it. So then it just comes down to dollars and cents and the overall portfolio and what your return would be. I, for one, am very much looking at every powertrain possibility across all the Jeep portfolios, what I can do to maximize the work.
That way is going in a different direction. So, not saying you're doing anything, but you have that flexibility. Do you think that having the flexibility to do it because the platform allows it versus this passy in terms of making that switch. You can be adjusting. Like, okay, we need to add a plug-in hybrid. We need to add a gas vehicle to it. How quickly can we make that shift if we need to for
No, it always comes down to, it depends on where we're at and which plant and which one's got the most flexibility, and then your supplier relations to get those. It's never just the want to. Like, it's always time and money. And then the rest of it, the long lead item always comes down to something. It's not the things you normally ask it. Like, I can't get that part from this guy. It always comes down to the long lead item. I'm having to figure out, overcome those when it comes to time. It really does. And I'm not giving you like a BS answer. That's what happens. So, yeah, all I want to do is sell cars. If there's demand in a particular area and I think I can get that business case done, I'm certainly investigating. That is my attitude towards this brand and our dealers. And I think that's what they appreciate. If every single person wants an EV, I'll make you EVs. If they don't, I'm going to find ways to get them what they're looking for. I think it fits the brand and I can make money. That's it.
Okay, there's my 18 quotes right there in those last almost here.
We are going to sell cars and we are going to grow on. That's what we're going to do. And our level of aggression, I think, has improved significantly, and probably even more so since I arrived. That is the mission of this leadership team. It is now in place. And I think every move you guys have seen me make is aimed at doing just that. More good, better price, more concept, right places, more choice.
In terms of the product lineup, how big or small in terms of number of nameplates? Do you want to see the number of nameplates grow, shrink a little bit, and how broad do you think the lineup should be over the next 5 to 10 years?
We've actually had some interesting conversation regarding that exact question. So my first thing is, I want to be the world's greatest SUV brand. That was what we started. That is the iconic legacy position we have. That's the mission always. If we enter a segment, you have to be the Jeep of that segment. And when I say that, if you're a purist, you understand what it means to be a Jeep. It's a very honest, simple answer. So obviously everything it's how restrained you get with it, but it needs to be a Jeep first and foremost. When it comes to being a UV, that's obviously our sweet spot. And if you were to go into second thing we're not doing, like you get really small Jeeps, etc., it still needs to be a Jeep if we're going to go there first. And then if I can make a proper business case, or it doesn't fit maybe fits better in the Jeep than maybe another Peter's brand's portfolio, that's something that we could discuss.
So from your perspective, obviously off-road capability, but are there any other traits that you feel like it has to have to be a Jeep?
And then the words that I keep using, should be fun. It's like, oh my God, I keep saying this in every brief. It should be fun. It's a fun brand, right? It's a cool brand. It was founded out of adventure, and breed up fun. Or rushing. The car should be cool. It actually feel something when I get into the car. So that simple brief, amazing watching people's heads explode. You're like, okay. Is it fun? Do I want to do it? Do I want to buy it? Do I want to target that? So to me, that's important. So that it's, yes, off-road capability, right? It needs to be able to get 4x4 needs to be readily available and be a hell of a product. It should be fun. It absolutely should. And the open air freedom and those other key characteristics should be there.
Jeep.
And it should look like a Jeep. Oh, go ahead.
But a Jeep, if you have fun right now, do you think everything you have is fun?
And not as much fun as we should. This should be more fun. This brand's awesome. Like, I'm excited to get my hands on this brand. I really, really am. There's a lot of people who love it who've already written me. And they have amazingly fun, cool ideas. And I'm very interested to see if I can bring those to life.
Bob Beauregard,
you guys are very much.
And finally, we've got Chrysler brand CEO, Chris Fuel.
Chris, Chrysler, the Chrysler brand. When we first talked, when you first came into the Chrysler brand, probably 2.5, 3 years ago now, there's big plans to grow the brand back up again. Right now, you're back down to one vehicle, a couple of different, the Civica and Voyager, I think, for fleet.
And retail. Yeah, we brought it out for retail last year.
So, give us an update on the progress of the Chrysler brand and kind of where it is and then where you see it going.
Yeah, so 2024 was actually a pretty decent year for Chrysler. While sales were down about 6%, it was entirely driven by the loss of the 300. Pacifica was actually up 24% in the fourth quarter and 8% for the full year over year. And so we're continuing to see good momentum with Pacifica. the minivan segment is still a relevant and growing segment. It's been growing pretty consistently since 2020, still not back to the 2019 levels, but we'll get there without question. And we added the Voyager back to the retail lineup this year so that we could really carve out that affordable sub $40,000 entry for the minivan, which was an important space for us to play in because we exited that with some of the pricing realignments that were taken over the last few years. So as we look forward to 2025, we are, continuing to grow that sales momentum with Pacifica. We're expecting to continue that growth through Pacifica Gas, plug-in hybrid, and Voyager. We've got the family adventure vehicle buzz model that we're also launching this year that the dealers and customers are really excited about. And in June, we celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Chrysler. And so we have a lot of really great activations planned for that celebration that will, give a nod to the history and heritage of Chrysler when it was formed as a company and all of the great products and concept vehicles that we've launched over the last 100 years and how we're thinking about the next 100 years with the new products that are coming.
Can we bring back the turbine as a range extender for... That might actually be a good application for the turbine. And then you wouldn't even have to use a sonic exhaust. So, in terms of long term, I think when we first talked and when the airflow was first shown publicly, at the time, the plan was to grow the brand to about 4 to 6 models, 4 to 6 nameplates. Is that slow or?
3 nameplates are what's in the portfolio. And when Carlos was leading the company, the intention was every brand gets a certain allocation of new product, and as they launch and are successful, you can add more. And it's always our intention to grow the portfolio, but what we have in front of us right now is a refreshed Pacifica coming in 2026, and that will be followed by the new crossover product and a third product to be named later that will be inspired by the Halcyon concept.
So it's not so refresh Pacifica, but we're still a ways away then from being actually more all new Chrysler.
Later in 26 is when we'll reveal it. Yeah.
So revealing it late 26 to 27 time frames.
27 is probably when you're going to see, the product really in mass availability and dealer inventory.
So what is the Chrysler brand? What does it stand for? What type of vehicles do you want in the lineup? What's the theme for Chrysler?
Well, if you think about what Chrysler had in the lineup at our highest volume point, it played in every relevant segment in the market. And so that's why we're prioritizing the first brand new product to play in that crossover space, because it is the biggest segment in the market and allows us to position the brand in that upper mainstream part of the segment as well. We still want to drive value for the customers and be accessible to the customers that we're selling to today, but also have the ability to attract new customers to the brand who haven't experienced them before. We think our new products will really connect with those new customers in a meaningful way, both through really beautiful and aspirational design, outstanding driving performance from a fun to drive aspect, not from the perspective like Dodge being positioned as high performance muscle car. We're not going after the old road audience that Jeep goes after. It's really that harmonious joy of driving experience and the seamless connectivity between the customer's personal digital life and their mobile digital life that we're trying to deliver.
Still for the moment it's minivan. How do you keep to the Kadena how people are short receiving right so right now. How do you position it to go like me just being the minivan brand? So like, oh no wait, we are doing these something on that crossover column. How do you communicate that to your consumer that now be
Yeah, so obviously marketing is going to play a really critical role in not only communicating and demonstrating how the brand is shifting and transforming, but also will give us the opportunity to connect with those target audiences to show them the relevance of these new products. When we took the new crossover out to market research, it was off the charts rated number 1 compared to every competitive product that we also showed. We compared it as a Kia, Hyundai, Toyota, Tesla, and it was rated number 1 by a large margin. And then we showed the customers a preview of the direction that Chrysler was going in from a design and a product offering perspective. And they said, you know, I didn't know Chrysler before, but if this is the direction that you're going in, sign me up. I'm interested. This is exciting. You're definitely heading in the right direction.
So those brands that you just mentioned that you focus groups, the crossover against, is that Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, those core mainstream brands, is that the competitive set for Chrysler going forward?
It's a primary competitive set, and it's who we compete with today. But, you know, you also have to add Ford and GM to that consideration, because in our domestic market, in the non-minivan segment, it's who we would be most often crossed.
What else do we have, Dan?
Administration change it.
You talked, you said, you got really good response to the first showings of this thing. Do you personally feel comfortable with the directions that the development teams, the design teams are heading with the brand? Are you confident that it's going to, the revival of Chrysler as a brand is going to be successful?
Yeah, 100% I am. The designs are hitting it out of the park. That will drive a great part of the interest and excitement of the Chrysler's brand revitalization. The one thing I will say that we're pivoting on, and it's because of the shifts in customer and market demand, is the whole notion of electrification. And you're taking a step back and introducing more of a multi-energy strategy than a pure BEV strategy. We will still go full electrified, but that will include a combination of hybrid, plug-in, and BEV.
And as part of that, do you also see things like e-revs, like the Ram charger type of architecture?
I think there are applications where the e-rev technology makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure for Chrysler. If it makes sense potentially in minivan, if we can get the cost down on the technology, because those customers use it for road tripping, very long trips. And that's where a full BEV application in the minivan can be a challenging proposition, depending upon the range that you're able to deliver. There's always that trade-off between range and affordability, because you put a bigger battery in to get more range, and it drives up the price of the vehicle. So you got to balance that.
Yeah. What is the take rate for the plug-in hybrid Civic today? Out of the total sales, what
runs about 15% of the mix.
And have the issues that were plaguing it previously, there have been a number of recalls on that. Has that all been sorted out?
Yeah, the recalls are behind us. We've gotten to a clean point on the battery packs a while ago, and we're pretty much through all of the repairs that needed to be done on those prior model year PHEVs.
You can't say what you're going to spend your years and there's the majority strand.
how would you say, what is Chrysler? What is this brand here? So that's Jersey guys. So I think what not only I expect, but what customers expect is continuing to live up to the vision and aspiration that Walter Chrysler set 100 years ago, and that's centered around delivering products with amazing designs that are well engineered with thoughtfully integrated innovations and features at an affordable price.
And affordability, is that a big part of that? Or is it like the mid-term on the more... It's a very, it's really very upscale. Yeah. That a huge part of Chrysler's view was identity, or not so much because she tries that affordability?
Chrysler has worked its way into the upper mainstream portion of the segment, and we created Pinnacle because customers told us that they wanted something a bit more elevated. It represents a portion of the total sales mix. The majority of the mix is still in that select and limited trim level.
And of course, you've got the Navigator, the
Voyager.
Voyager, yes. Yeah. Voyager there, is more the entry level.
And that was a very intentional decision when I was brainstorming that idea with the team. Kind of thought I was crazy, but I said, hear me out. We've completely walked away from the sub $40,000 sub-segment of minivan, and I think Voyager could be a solution for that. We were selling it just to fleet, but we chose to make it available for retail based on the very positive feedback that I got from the dealers when I talked to them about the idea as well. And I think that's been a really smart move for us to do that, to cover that segment that we walked away from.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Did you have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
All right. Always good to talk to you, Chris.
Good to talk to you today.
And we're back, and let's answer a few listener questions that we got. So let's start off with Rick, who is a Patreon supporter. Thank you,
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you to everyone else who's supporting us on Patreon. Rick's got, let's see, he says, hey, to my auto gentleman and gentle lady, you are awesome. Thank you, Rick. 2 questions. I recently purchased an OBD link. That's an onboard diagnostics link, so that my ABRP, which is a better route planner app, would have current data. I noticed that my 3-year-old Mach-E battery has lost 6%. Is that normal? That does seem a little high for 3 years.
High, yeah.
Depends a lot on how you've been using it. If you've been doing a lot of DC fast charging, that might, or it depends on how many times you've charged it. How many miles you've got on it. That could impact the degradation. Usually a lot of fast charging will do that. But if you're mostly charging at home, that does seem a little high.
It does. I would agree.
Yeah. Typically it's more along the lines of about maybe 1% a year is fairly typical for most EV batteries.
Yeah.
So you might want to keep an eye on that. It does have an 8-year warranty on there. And so I think, if it gets down to, I think it's 70%, or you have to pick your specific warranty, but usually it's somewhere around 70% capacity within that 8 years, they will replace it. So, keep an eye on that, on what your battery capacity is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question from Rick was, I would like to get a smaller EV truck, like a Maverick, Ranger, or Santa Cruz. When will one be available? I have a small garage, and I'm just starting doing woodworking like Robbie. I would like to transport wood without asking my neighbors for help. No Cybertruck or Rivian.
When small, I think, is Toyota working on something?
Toyota has shown a concept. They had a concept last year.
Yeah, they've shown a lot of concepts.
Yeah.
Is the first one going to be Scout?
That's not small.
That's
not small. That's more Rivian, like Ridgeline.
It's actually closer to F-150. It's bigger than
F-150.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Oh, I didn't have a chance to stop and look at it at CES.
Yeah.
I just ran by.
It's closer to full size.
Oh, okay. A couple of years.
Ford has well, you mentioned Ranger in here. Ford, when they reworked their EV plans last summer, they did say that the first product out of their Skunk Works program is going to be a mid-size pickup, which would put it, presumably somewhere around Ranger size, and that is coming. Did they say 26 or 27?
I'm going to say 27, just because that's how things work.
It'll probably be closer to 27.
I'm sure they said 26, but let's just say 27.
Yeah. That is probably the first one in that size class, unless Rivian does an R2T. They could do a smaller pickup based on the R2.
Maybe. I don't think they have the bandwidth.
Yeah, probably not. I think they're going to focus on the SUVs, because the R1 SUV is selling a lot better than the R1T.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably going to focus on those for now. So Ford or Toyota are probably going to be the first ones.
I will say that I've had 8-foot long pieces of wood in my BRZ because I shoved it. It went out the passenger window and then over the and sat on the mirror, the little groove between the mirror and the car with cushioning in there. So it went all the way through the car to the rear left driver's side.
I've done that with the Civic.
Trunk. Yeah. So, it can be done. It's not ideal, because then it looks like you're just ready to joust everybody as you're driving on the road.
Maybe you are.
But yeah, it's not.
The other option is like Lowe's and Home Depot and those. They usually have trucks for rent.
Oh yeah.
Or if you're getting a big load of lumber delivered, or getting a big load of lumber, just get it delivered.
Yeah,
they'll deliver it, drop it off in your driveway.
Yeah.
Or you can get the ID4, the ID Buzz. That's got.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a different idea.
Yeah, fold the seats down and an ID Buzz.
Tons of space. You can take that center console out.
Yeah.
Bam.
Okay, there's the solution. Get an ID Buzz.
Get a $60,000 van. Our solution is spend a lot of money for a van.
All right. Next up, Robert from Anaheim. Fan of the show. I've messaged before and not gotten a response or had it mentioned on the podcast. For that, Robert, I take responsibility. I'm sorry. Sometimes I read an email and I intend to come back to it and I forget, and then it gets lost somewhere in the stack, and so that's my fault. Listening to the end of 2024 podcast from the Live from Las Vegas podcast, I heard Robbie state his drive from Northern California to Southern California, a route that would take him near or through Orange County. I recommend in his next long EV road trip to try and give his review of Rove EV charging station on 1008 East 17th Street, Santa Ana. Yes, there's a Mexican restaurant in the same lot for tacos. If any of the other hosts find themselves in the area as well, please try it and share your experience. I will definitely do that the next time I am in that vicinity. Looking forward to hearing it on future Wheel Bearings podcast. Report from Robert from Anaheim.
Cool.
Also,
I'm looking at I've already pulled up Google Maps. There is there's an ice cream place and El Centenario. Anyway, there's a grill and seafood place there that apparently I don't know what that word is.
I know. I'm Googling it. We're all looking. We're like, wait, where is this?
My Spanish is essentially, it sort of stopped once I hit 6 years old. It's a word. Oh, okay. It's for gold doubloon. That's what the word is. So that's not a word I know. It's like when my aunt asked me to work on her iPhone and everything's in Spanish, and I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And then I realized I don't know any technical Spanish. I don't know any technical words in Spanish. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, everyone should go here and eat Mexican food.
All right. And also, Robert bought a 2022 VW ID4 per my recommendation when on the Leo Laporte's show back at that time.
Cool.
This looks super cool. This Rove charging station. Rove. I've never even heard of these guys.
Yeah, rove where you want to. Rove
Did
around
you
the
look
world.
at the picture, you guys? Like if you
Yeah, they have.
click on Rove's site, it's got like a little car wash thing, and there's a little charging, and there's a
Oh, they got.
recharge
Oh,
with a
that's part of the same
market.
place.
I don't know if that's the place
What?
that he's, but
And
it looks super cool.
man, this place is dope.
Rove Santa Ana will have
Recharge by
fast
Gelson's.
chargers. Look at
Oh,
this.
it's got a Gelson's.
Yeah.
It's got giant. It's got overhangs. Oh, it's like a Tesla. I think
Also,
there's
they got
Tesla there.
canopies, solar canopies.
They got a Gelson's there.
I mean, not for nothing, you guys. This is really cool.
Yeah.
They got what else? They got Gelson's. They got Rove.
There's a nice little convenience store. Someone's eating some kind of sandwich that looks really
Car
yummy.
wash. Oh, yeah, you could wash your car and then charge it, and then while it's charging, you could like, do they have vacuums next to the chargers? Oh, that would be genius.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't see that anyway, but there's trash cans.
Okay, so
you can empty out your
maybe
car.
I'll try this and tell us how cool it is because this looks really neat. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I gotta go.
All right. Finally, our old friend Adam Jekowenko says, "Hope you're having fun at CES this week." This email actually came in while we were at CES, so I wanted to share this recent article about electronic doors and how a dead 12 volt can lock you out of your car. And so it's a link to the Utopian. A baby allegedly being trapped in an electric car is the latest reminder that door handles have gotten stupid. Anyway, to get your thoughts on whether the benefits outweigh the downsides. While the situation isn't funny, I thought the author's rage was and mostly justified. I own a Mach-E and know that this has in fact happened to fellow owners. And while I don't think electronic doors are quite as bad as the pure evil incarnate digital air vents, I still don't think the minor range savings of flush door handles is worth the added complexity and potential risk or inconvenience. Is there another benefit? I'd much rather sacrifice a few miles of range and have traditional door handles that don't lock me out of my own car. I have a Mach-E, and if the windows are rolled up, there's no way to get into the vehicle trunk or frunk once the 12 volt goes down, and it happens without warning. So even storing a portable jumper somewhere in the car doesn't do you any good. The only solution is someone to come to rescue you with their own jumper box so you can use it to pop the frunk. Then pull off the two panels to access the 12 volt and then charge that enough to open the doors. I love my Mach-E, but can't help but feel this is really just dumb. This is just a really dumb engineering design. So, it sounds like Adam has actually been locked out of his Mach-E, which actually shouldn't happen because one of the things that Ford did, the Mach-E has the push button system on the door, and then there's a little piston in the door that pops the door open a couple inches, and then you grab the door and pull it open the rest of the way. And Tesla uses the exact same system on the Cybertruck. Cadillac did on the first model year of the Lyriq. And then after the first model year, they actually changed to a more conventional design, very similar to the Hyundai door handles. But on the Mach-E, at least, I know that because when I first saw the Mach-E, before it was revealed, I asked Ford engineers how you get in if the battery goes dead. And there's supercapacitors inside each of the doors that are supposed to be able to have enough juice for at least 2 door openings. And so even if your 12 volt goes dead, it should still be able to open the doors. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with Adams.
But if you open the door and you close the door, you didn't realize the 12 volt was dead, and you open the door and you close the door. Now you're like, oh no, I can't get in the car now.
Yeah, that's legitimate.
Yeah, you're putting things in the car like in the morning.
Yeah,
and you're going back and forth from the house. It's a lot of engineering to solve a problem that like it was like when everyone's talking about like side cameras, like oh, it saves so much, and then Mercedes was like, not really, it didn't really save that because they were doing the EQ XX. They're like, yeah, we just got side mirrors because it doesn't really save that much. It's not that big of a hit on aerodynamics. I feel like the doors is the same thing. It's like, hey, look at this cool future space car, and the reality is, like, just give us some door handles.
Yeah.
Don't give us fancy door ports for the charging. Just open it up just like a gas port. Just push the button and it pops open, or pull it open. Like, settle down, everybody. Just give us
basic mechanical door handles. They work really well.
They work.
There's a reason they're around for so long. They work.
Yeah. It's very much like, especially for just a regular car with a regular person who just wants to do regular things. Just give us a regular old door handle that I can yank on.
Just a handle. That easy.
A firefighter can yank on it. They don't have to I don't know how to open this door. But the owner learned how to do it over the course of a couple days.
Yeah.
I can't figure. You're inside the car. It's on fire. You got to push the button and then wait a second, and then it pulls out.
Horrifying.
Stop it. Everyone stop it.
Technology for the sake of technology is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Correct. Just doesn't have to be tech just to be. Sometimes not tech is better, believe it or not.
Yeah. Just give us a nice, regular old mechanical door handle.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, I'd like to thank you all, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.